Cade McNamara is returning to quarterback the Hawkeyes. Is this a problem? Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. Coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer. And I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com and get started. All right. The Hawkeyes may have a quarterback problem again. Plus, some good wide receiver news from Penn State. Some good quarterback news at Ohio State and UCLA. We're going to see what's going on down there. Plus, Tuesday tweets. You don't want to miss them. They're great as always. But with the college football season quickly approaching, let's get real here about the Iowa Hawkeyes quarterback situation. For the record, at Locked On Big Ten, we are very pro-Iowa. I expect them to have a very good season. In fact, yesterday we were talking about how many experienced, good players are returning on defense. And of course, defense was the backbone of this Iowa Hawkeye football team and their 10-win season last year. But they won despite an incredible lack of offense last season. I mean, you remember Cade McNamara had transferred in from Michigan after getting them to the playoffs the season before. But since he arrived in Iowa, it's had one injury after another here. In fact, last year, he was healing from an injury when he arrived from Michigan, and he was limited in spring football camp. Then when fall camp started, he aggravated his leg at the annual Kids Day scrimmage at Kinnick Stadium. And then had limited activity. He was just trying to get healthy in time for the starting game, the first game of the season. And leading up to that, he hardly practiced at all. And he didn't look right when he played. He didn't. And he never really took off statistically either as well. And just a few games into the season, of course, he suffered a season-ending knee injury in the Michigan State game that required surgery. And that surgery and the recovery limited his availability for spring football the following year, this past year. He's really not taking a lot of snaps with this offensive and this coaching staff here at Iowa, but he's kind of been behind the eight ball a little bit, if you will. However, a lot of eyes were on him during the annual 2024 Kids Day scrimmage this past weekend. All indications are that he is healthy and he did not get hurt at the event. And I say that seriously, and that's great. That's great news. So all signs point forward to the 2024 season. However, there was some lip biting going on during his performance at practice. Granted, he hasn't taken meaningful snaps in 10 months, and he hasn't been himself since Michigan's 2022 season. So it would not be unreasonable to assume that he'd be a little rusty. And he was very rusty this past weekend. He only completed 8 out of 24 passes for a meager 20 yards, and he threw an interception. I'm not sure what was more alarming, the 33% completion rate at practice or the 2.5 yards per completion. Yikes. I haven't even mentioned that the interception he threw was a pick six the other way. Wasn't a good day. Not a good day. Now, if you're an everydayer here at Locked On Big Ten, you know this. We had suggested in an earlier podcast at Locked On Big Ten this spring that given McNamara's injury history and the fact that he really isn't a statistical compiler, if you will, that maybe the arrival of Northwestern quarterback transfer Brendan Sullivan maybe was a silver lining. And maybe he wasn't just coming to Iowa to back up McNamara with his 2 years of eligibility. Maybe he actually had sights on stealing the QB1 job for McNamara with a competitive camp. Now, he was a surprise arrival because he didn't leave Northwestern until after spring ball. And that was a lucky break for Iowa because they were in desperate need for another quarterback on that depth chart. Remember, they had Deacon Hill, and he had to jump into the lineup after the McNamara injury last year and start the remaining 8 games and the Big Ten championship game. But in reality, Hill didn't have the ability to be a major power for starting quarterback. He just wasn't at that level. He gave it all he could, but he wasn't right at that level. And he has since left the program. So all of that is fine and good. But like McNamara, Sullivan also struggled in the Kids' Day scrimmage as well this weekend. He was just 10 of 21 for 76 yards. And that was after a 5 for 15 start, which he netted just 25 yards. That 5 for 15 start, also like McNamara, was at a 33% completion rate. And just 5 yards per completion, but at least that was double what McNamara was doing. Now, he finally started completing some passes in the 2-minute drill, but that was against a defensive unit that was filled with non-starters, in some cases third stringers. It makes you pause for concern. It really, really does. Now, maybe it won't matter. I'll explain that in a moment. But there's a couple of areas that we should probably focus on here with a poor statistical outing. First of all, it was just a scrimmage. It was a practice. There's still some time left. But these quarterbacks, for the most part, were scrimmaging against one of the best defenses in the country, right? Iowa brings it defensively. This is an experienced group. We talked about this yesterday. Most of their leading tacklers are all back. So they're going to be ahead of the offense. There's no question. And it would probably be tough for any quarterback to play against and practice against the Iowa defense on any given day. Now, maybe this will pay dividends going into the season. They got to practice against this tough defense. Maybe game day will be a little bit easier against some other defenses. Maybe. The other focus point leads us to new offensive coordinator Tim Lester and where he is right now with his offensive install. Even under the best case scenario, we have huge question marks about Iowa's receivers and outside speed to take the top off of opposing defenses. It was sorely lacking. It was non-existent last year. And I didn't see them get a lot better there this year with the transfer portal or any recruiting. So, look, I think we will see a little bit more pre-snap motion with Lester running the offense than we have in the past. But I think no matter who is at QB1, this offense is going to run the ball. And by the way, the running game, the offensive line, and the running backs, from what I hear, look pretty good at this scrimmage over the weekend. So that's good. But the passing game may still be about finding tight ends instead of wide receivers. That's just what they do. I mean, if that's the case, the 2024 offense may have a lot in common with the 2023 offense, which was all about ball control, power running game, short passes to the tight end, punt if necessary, and let the defense go to work. It's been the MO year after year there at Iowa. That philosophy is all Kirk Ferentz. No matter who the offensive coordinator is, whether it's Tim Lester or whether it's Brian Ferentz's son. And no matter who the quarterback is, by the way. That's just the kind of offense they're going to run at Iowa. And look, it's not all bad. It doesn't work everywhere. It works there. It works at Iowa. It led to an impressive 10-win season and a Big Ten championship game appearance last year. And frankly, with their somewhat favorable schedule, the Iowa Hawkeyes can put up another big win total in 2024. We've talked about it here on this podcast. I think it's going to be a good season. How many times have you heard anybody talk about question marks at quarterback? Maybe a team's not that good at quarterback, and yet you expect them to win some football games. You don't. Nobody does that unless you're talking about Iowa football. That's the case here. So, and if you like to wager, FanDuel, right? Always take the under on Iowa Hawkeye games all season and just enjoy the wins because there's going to be some. They're going to win more than they're going to lose. I'm going to tell you that. The Hawkeyes open the season August 31st at noon, hosting Illinois State at Kinnick Stadium. We'll get our first look at everything that's going on there. Hey, if you're new, be sure to subscribe. You just click the little subscribe button. It doesn't require any personal information, no money. It's free. And then you and I are in the same loop every day talking Big Ten. We are making a big push to get our 10,000th subscriber before the start of the season. We had 1,200 when we took over this channel last year. We're cruising. Thanks to you guys. Thank you. You can follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. And that way you'll get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Hey, and Hawkeyes fans, don't forget to pick up some Iowa gear for the 2024 season right at our website where all of our podcasts go. And you can get the merchandise at talkbig10.com. Finally, we have some good news, I think, for Penn State at wide receiver. Maybe, from what we hear. We're going to share it with you coming up. Plus, quarterback updates, QB1 at Ohio State and UCLA. They might have something going on down there. That's all coming up next right here on Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. Sports are great during the summertime, and you can make them even greater with FanDuel. Get a little excitement going on with these games. Games maybe you normally wouldn't care about. Got a little something going on with FanDuel, you're going to care about more and more and be just a true sports fan. FanDuel keeps us busy all summer long. They're hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Let's take a look at baseball tonight here on Tuesday night. I like the Nationals over the O's. I like the Guardians over the Cubs. I'll take the Phillies over the Marlins, the Mets over the A's, and the Diamondbacks over the Rockies. There's 5 games right there. Why don't you parlay a couple of them and increase your winnings? Those are my suggestions. Go to FanDuel.com. Again, FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, let's thank everybody for joining us here. Thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day, especially you everydayers out there. We always want to mention you and give you a shout and a thanks. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget our website, Talk Big Ten. That's the number 10, talkbig10.com. Hey, when you're done with us, and maybe check out another episode of Locked On Big Ten, but maybe a second or third listen, check out Locked On College Football. They have our own podcast there, getting ready for everything going on with the college football season on the field and off the field. More stuff going on off the field than on the field, really. That's Locked On College Football podcast every day, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right. Just like the Iowa Hawkeyes have a lot of scrutiny with their wide receiver production, the same could be said about the Penn State wide receiver room, right? This has been a topic here. So, look, maybe not on the same scale at Penn State as it is at Iowa, but Penn State's lack of vertical offense has been a big issue. Been a big issue last season and maybe this season too. And to make matters worse, quarterback Drew Allar's top target, Keandre Lambert-Smith, he portaled out of Happy Valley, so he's not there. Now, they did bring in Ohio State's Julian Fleming, very mature guy, good leader. He'll be a good fit in that locker room. I don't know if he's going to be a number 1 wide receiver or not. I had to play in the shadow of a lot of guys over there at Ohio State. We'll see what happens over at Penn State. But he transferred in. He'll have huge expectations placed on his shoulders there at wide receiver. But you remember Harrison Wallace III from last year. He was injured last year, but he did play 8 games, caught 19 passes for 228 yards and a touchdown. But apparently he's back with a vengeance here this year. Head coach James Franklin had high hopes for him last year, but he's excited to have him back and healthy this year. And he thinks the injury last year keeps him extra motivated for this year. And so far, he's looked pretty good. And in fact, teammate and defensive back KJ Winston has noticed Wallace as well, going head-to-head with him. And he told reporters that he's been playing off the charts for the Nittany Lions offense in practice so far. So, hey, that's great news for Penn State fans. We are. All right? We're good. Now, we started this podcast talking about the Iowa Hawkeyes open scrimmage. Well, how about UCLA? What's going on there? They had a scrimmage as well this past weekend. And apparently, quarterback Ethan Garbers is looking pretty good. The defense won this scrimmage 52-51. Afterward, Bruins tight end Molokai Matabo said that we're going to win the Big Ten championship. Well, not with a defense like that. But granted, it was a loose scrimmage, and UCLA's defense was really, really good last year. Very underrated. They got really good, although their defensive coordinator bolted across town, and he's now working for Lincoln Riley and the USC Trojans. Now, the last time UCLA won a conference title, it was head coach Deshaun Foster's rookie year as a running back for UCLA back in 1998. Now, enough about the defense, though. We want to talk about redshirt senior quarterback Ethan Garbers. Now, according to everybody, he looked great. Many highlight throws out there. Head coach Deshaun Foster said about Garbers that he's the one. He's the best quarterback. So it sounds like it's going to be an easy job for the head coach picking his QB1 to start the season. Garbers has led the offense that follow the mantra of do more. He was kind of leading the group of guys here in the offseason. And that includes staying on top of every nuance of the offense, which is no easy task because remember, we did a podcast on this the other day. Offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, wanted to remind you of that, is the offensive coordinator, and he's very complicated, got a very complicated offense, complicated language. Guys are working on it, getting it down, so they're not thinking and reacting more when the play is going on. The Bruins scrimmage did come with a little bit of a scare. Right tackle Garrett DiGiorgia rolled his left ankle, but he taped up and said if it was a real game, he would have returned to the field. So that's good. Good news. They dodged the problem there. Some more good news for UCLA. One of the best high school kickers in the country out of nearby Chatsworth says he's staying in SoCal. He said Ashton Zamani said that he's going to commit to UCLA. So that's some good news for the Bruins special teams there. All right. A second ago, we're talking about quarterbacks. Let's continue to do so. We often detail what's going on at Ohio State with their interesting and deep quarterback room. I love talking about it. I think it's a fascinating story. It has been throughout the offseason and going into the season. And we featured them last week on a Locked On Big Ten podcast. By the way, go back and check it out. It's under the group by schools. You Buckeye fans, just go right to the Buckeyes part of talkbig10.com. That's number 10, talkbig10.com. Anyway, it was reported that it appears senior transfer Will Howard is taking the lead in the race for the starting quarterback job and separating himself from the field. However, as we also talked about last week, it seems like he's got a little gravitational pull with him because freshman, five-star freshman, true freshman, Julian Sand, he's been climbing the depth chart too. He's looking impressive every single day. So, Will Howard is separating himself out of the five quarterbacks. It looks like Julian Sand's kind of coming up there with him a little bit. And he's impressing people daily. And we even wondered out loud, maybe Howard is named the starting quarterback at the beginning of the season, but saying maybe finishes the season as the starter, maybe just throwing it out there. We're going to be keeping an eye on that. It was food for thought. I think it was worthy of talking about. But another head turner over at Columbus, and they have many because this roster is ridiculously loaded. They got explosive true freshman wide receiver Jeremiah Smith, right? Well, it appears he's giving an endorsement to Will Howard at quarterback for the starting job. He said that Howard has made a big jump from the spring and that he likes that Howard is starting to talk a little more trash on the field. Now, true freshman wide receivers usually don't make comments about who should be starting quarterback or what he likes about the quarterback, but I think Smith is a different guy. He's a different kind of guy. No ordinary freshman. He's already won the team's Iron Buckeye Award for winning the offseason in the weight room. He's just come in there and he's just asserting himself and taking control. Even Ryan Day has noticed how Will Howard has taken control of the huddle and the line of scrimmage the past couple of days, getting really comfortable out there. He did reiterate, hey, I'm not naming a starter yet, but he's talking like he's going to be the starter. Offensive coordinator Chip Kelly has noticed how Howard has started to grasp the playbook since spring. And he compared Howard, because of his size and his speed, to Josh Allen. That's pretty high praise. Josh Allen. Very high praise. All right. We have Tuesday tweets. These are always fun for me and hopefully for you. Follow us at Twitter at X at TalkBig10, number 10. Throw a tweet out there. If it's good, we'll put them up. I'm more and more amused by the creativity on some of this stuff. And with the season coming up, we can't wait. We'll share them all with you coming up here in 1 minute on Locked On Big Ten. Passion, drive, and patience. It's the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and all the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, let's get into it. It is time for Tuesday Tweets. I always like this segment. It's fun. I like them all, but I like this one. I'm going to put it on full screen. If you're audio only listening to our podcast, thank you, by the way. I'll try and describe it in detail so you don't feel like you're missing out on anything there, and we'll go full screen with this. All right, this first one, you can see I retweeted it out at Talk Big Ten. This is from who is this? Oh, this is from College Football on Fox. They got wind of the AP Top 25 College Football poll right before it was released on Monday, and I noticed that there are 4 Big Ten teams in the top 10. I think that's about right. They got Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Oregon 3. Texas comes in at 4 and Alabama at 5. You got Ole Miss at 6, Notre Dame at 7, Penn State at 8, and Michigan at 9, and Florida State at 10. So 4 Big Ten teams in the top 10. And also cracking the list on the top 25, we got Southern Cal at 23 and Iowa at 25. Got no problem with all that. I think Trojan fan is going to want to see the Southern Cal Trojans a little higher there. And I think Iowa's going to be flirting in and out of the top 25 all season long. That's what I think. That's my early take on that. Anyway, let's see what else we have here on Tuesday Tweets. Let's go. This is from at NFL, actually. It is Bo Nix. How about that, Oregon Duck fan? There's Bo Nix in a Denver Broncos jersey getting ready for his preseason debut, in which he completed 15 of 21 passes for 125 yards and a touchdown. That's not bad. That's not bad. First time out. And here is from Atlanta Falcons, Washington Husky fan. Get loose number 9. It is Michael Penix Jr., the lefty, warming up before his NFL preseason debut. So I thought I'd share that with you. Speaking of Washington, this is at UW_football. Says men at work, all about the W, and shows the Huskies going at it. It's a short little video clip of them going at it at practice, getting ready for the season. Here is from at the real Don Thomas, and it is a picture of Jim Harbaugh in a Chargers hat, Chargers shirt, some shorts. Notice the wide receiver gloves. He's out there catching balls out there. It says Jim Harbaugh this year wins a national championship, tells the NCAA to go fly a kite, cemented his residence in the minds of Buckeyes and Spartans fans, living rent-free in their head, and back in the NFL doing what he does best. That is all about Jim Harbaugh, who we mentioned yesterday, will be coming back for the season opener against Fresno on August 31st as the honorary captain for the Wolverines, and they'll celebrate, of course, the last time he was with them, their national championship and their 15-0 season. Here is a couple of Buckeyes. I see Trevion Henderson. They're playing video games. They're playing the College Football 25 at Ohio State on Big Ten, releasing this one. And it says they're really in the game. No, they really are in the game. They're playing themselves. They're seeing themselves in the game that they're playing. That's pretty cool. Here is from at Houston Texans, and it is the handshake from CJ Stroud and Justin Fields in the Texans and Steelers preseason games. Is that at Ohio State football connection on lock? That's right. Both of them are Buckeyes. So CJ Stroud was phenomenal last year in his rookie season. Justin Fields showing flashes, trying to figure out his his place and his role in the NFL. Moving on from the Bears, and now with the Steelers here this year. Here is at 11 Warriors at 11W, and it is Brian Hartline on the return of Bia at Ohio State. This is the best defensive back core depth-wise and top-of-the-line-wise that I've ever seen since I've been here. There you go. But they are deep at, and of course, Hartline, the wide receivers coach, going against these guys every day in practice with some pretty good wide receivers to boot. Meanwhile, this is at Big Ten football. Our guy at Big Ant Heron gives us the best additions to the Big Ten. Do you agree? Hashtag Big Ten today and Big Ten football. It is a picture of defensive back Caleb Downs, safety at Ohio State, who we were just talking about, the defensive backs at Ohio State in the last slide, the last tweet. Caleb Downs, of course, transferring in from Alabama, and he is the real deal. And then on offense, he's got Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback at Oregon, coming in from Oklahoma. Big Ten defensive and offensive best additions of the year. I would have to, without further thought, I think I'll have to agree with that on the spot. Pretty good take. Here is at Barstool Big Ten, the Oregon Duck, which has been making its rounds from school to school around the Big Ten. The Duck has officially gone coast to coast and made himself familiar with every stadium in the Big Ten, and we posted some of these pictures along the way. This was a retweet at the Oregon Duck saying, "Let me in," at Rutgers. There you go, coast to coast. Here is at Blake Horn TV, Cade McNamara surviving Kids Day with no soft tissue injuries. Again, he was injured last year. This having the Kids Day scrimmage this year. The tradition at Iowa marks 1 year on the calendar. Another year's gone by, and Cade McNamara healthy. But as we spent most of our time in the first segment, he may have looked healthy, but he did not look great. Here's a look at the good, the bad, and the ugly from Saturday's open practice, and a look at how the Hawkeyes are utilizing pre-snap motion. It's about a minute-long video if you want to check that out. And at University of Michigan football, reminding everybody that September 7th, their second game of the season, it is going to be a maize out. That's versus Texas. That's a biggie. Go blue, wear maize. The maize out. It's going to be that bright yellow maize. Of course, the orange Longhorns in there. Gonna be a tough day for the rods and cones. It's gonna be very bright with a lot of colors that day out there. But anyway, that's it for our Tuesday tweets. If you want to tweet at us, feel free. You can hit us up at Talk Big Ten number 10, and you send us a really good one. We'll put it on every Tuesday here as well. In addition to that, don't forget you can get a hold of us at our website. There's email there at talkbig10.com where you can find merchandise for your favorite school and all of our podcasts. And we invite you to, as soon as this winds down, check out another Locked On Big Ten podcast. Get caught up from earlier in the week. Either way, and then comment on YouTube as well. That's always welcome. Be sure to subscribe. Help us get to 10,000 before the start of the season. We're this close. And you can follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Then, for a second listen, check out Locked On College Football. They got their own podcast, broad everything college football, on the field, off the field, transfer portals, all that stuff. Right there. Locked On College Football is available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Another day closer to the start of the season. We'll have all the latest news from all the camps as we continue tomorrow. Thank you for spending your time with us here today. We never take that for granted. Share the word, spread the word, physically share this podcast if you don't mind, with the share arrow with a friend that you think would enjoy it, and spread it word of mouth as well to somebody that you know that is a Big Ten fan or grad. They might be interested that we're out here every single day. That'll do it. And I can't wait to talk to you again tomorrow for Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. I'll talk to you next time.